Okay, to start this project off, you're going to need a voltmeter. This is a socket that you will need to take a socket off the front. Obviously, you'll need the ratchet that goes with the socket, as you can see here. Now, the next items that you'll need are a set of flathead screwdrivers. Now, these will come into play a little later, and I'll explain why. Varying sizes, a measuring tape was something my wife used, and what I'm going to suggest is you need hands, lots of hands.
New stove part from Repair Clinic, large burner. This is how it comes packaged. It did come in an exterior box, but it does have the safety flaps and is kind of plastic down. So there's a close-up of the actual part, and we'll get this in the stove.
Getting started, you're going to want to turn off your power to the stove and unplug it, safety first. After which you're going to open the front of your stove, and right here and here there are 2 bolts that you will need to take off. And in my case, once I lift the stove top, you can see right there, it's the back burner, which is why you need another set of hands, because you can't really find a piece of wood lying around big enough for that. Next, we use the voltmeter on several different points just to make sure that there's absolutely no power coming to the stove, because we don't want to get a nasty surprise and get electrocuted. So just check a couple contact points just to make sure you're safe. After which we have these clamps here and here that are holding the burner in place. They are on a numeric pattern, so you want to make sure that you know exactly where that number falls that you have to re-clamp to so that it fits in the stove again. Pictures are helpful. Inside the box from Repair Clinic is a diagram as of what your old burner should look like and the new burner. Just quickly compare them to make sure that you're looking at the correct thing. I found it easiest if you held the burner similarly to how it should be and then unplug items before taking the old burner off and replacing it. Here you can see it was a little snugger than I had anticipated it to be. However, these few items did come off with a little effort. You don't want to tug too hard, but you want to make sure you grab the metal part as you don't rip the wire connector from the actual connection that you're plugging into your other burner. Now, I'm holding it this way also because it helps me line up the cords and not have to remember where they go. And here is where some of the difficulty starts. As you can see, the little one on the bottom there is giving me a bit of trouble. So the black cord on the left gave me a lot of trouble. It took 5 minutes of fiddling with it to get it to the point where it is now, that it's loose enough that I can just pull it out and place it onto the new burner. I had considered editing that part out because I did film it, but there was a lot of swearing, and 5 minutes of struggling with a cable does not make for good video. But just know that it did take me longer than anticipated. Here is the biggest issue that I ran into with replacing the burner on this particular stove. Everywhere else it's like, oh, just unscrew this. These are not screws, these are clamps. And the clamps are in there.
Alright, not annotating this part, I'm actually doing it in string. This is the original down here, this is the new one. It was not as easy as Repair Clinic made it out to be. There are no screws on these brackets. These are pretty much like digging into the chromatic part under here. So you see these are kind of bored out a little bit. Those are not. Those are digging in and are a pain in the butt to do. 2 people, 4 hands, swearing, brute force, screwdrivers, several screwdrivers to get these out. Probably 10 minutes? 20 minutes to do. So if you don't have screws, you might want to rethink this. Letting you know now. But everything is hooked up. It's against the thing finally. They're easier to get onto the new piece than they are to remove from the old piece. So now we're just going to close it up and make sure everything works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be super pissed.
What you're going to do after you turn the breaker back on and plug the stove back in, you're going to come back, check and make sure it works before you screw everything shut again. In this case, you can see it did work. So while it was a little more difficult than I had anticipated, it did work and I did save a little money.